I would like to talk to you guys a little more about transforming as an organization into digital. So what would an organization have to do if they want to go from old model to a digital model? So a quick digital checklist which everybody can use. So the key point being if an organization wants to adopt digital, it has to be done at an organization level. The strategy of the organization has to be, digital oriented and not just particular programs or projects that need to go digital. So some of the quick pointers which I thought we could share with you was like, as an organization, as I said, the environment, my processes, my environment needs to change to what digital will require. The people, the competency of the vendors I work with, the skill set of my people, of my staff, that needs to be upgraded to what digital demands. It's always a very good idea to collaborate with the fintechs around and the third parties which are already doing digital processes, so that I could easily, fall in line with what the fintechs are doing and put my processes in line with them. Tools and platforms, that's key, because the digital requires very specific tools and platforms which I'll talk about. So you really need to look at all your tool sets, all your platforms, and change whatever is required. As a process, Agile methodology is in a way very necessary, because considering it's more of a customer driven world now, so customer demands keep changing, the expectations keep changing very frequently. So the solutions which our organization provides need to be agile in terms of responding to the demands, and that's where agile methodologies are to be adopted for an organization. To support an agile methodology, obviously then it requires continuous integration and continuous testing to support the agile. And as an organization, you have to have a distinct value proposition. So for example, to begin with, maybe existing banks, it was maybe product oriented. The banks came up with a product and they try to sell the product, but now it's more about customer pulling, customer driven. It's more about what the customer needs and addressing that. So every organization need to come up with their own value proposition for digital. So I'm going to just quickly rush through tools and platforms. So this is where across the whole life cycle, the tools and platforms need to be adopted to continuous integration. That's key for meeting a digital environment. So this is where automation is key. So test automation, we have lots of tools like IBM Workbench, Selenium, APM. There are a lot of tool sets for specifically digital test automation. As I said, continuous integration and build is key because the faster the sprints are producing code, the faster it needs to be built and tested. So we have tools like Jenkins, Bamboo, and Maven for continuous integration. When the development cycle is running so fast, service virtualization becomes a key thing. So for example, because there may be certain functionalities or services, Java services, which are not ready while certain part of the application is being built. So mocking or creating stubs or virtualizing a total service altogether is key, and we have a lot of tools available for that. So one of the famous ones is CLISA, we have IBM RIT, and JMOC. The other thing in this I wanted to highlight was the project. Let me just, I cannot see the screen. Then we have project management tool like Jira, which also provides me a dashboard. and governance features. And obviously the performance and stress testing, that's non-functional testing. We have a lot of IBM and HP tools to do that. So this is a quick summary of some of the tools which are widely used to support a digital solution of an organization. I will, so as Maverick, we are an assurance provider right from concept to go live. So in terms of digital, the following are the recommendations which we make, and the following are the levels at which we think the assurance in a digital world is key. Starting right from portfolio level assurance, this is where the assurance is required right at the user story creation level. So for example, unlike pure Agile where a product owner writes a user story in conjunction with the business, but we need an assurance expert or a tester who should be a part of the user story creation, so that the user stories which come out can be in terms of effort sized consistently, so that they can be tested efficiently, and also be an assurance tester can correctly identify the non-functional requirement right at the beginning at the user story level. So that's about at a portfolio level. And then comes the in-sprint testing, so which is about within the sprint I'm doing the design, build and test. So in sprint also we offer in-sprint testing as we call it. So we have the test design which is performed within the sprint, and acceptance criteria which were written as part of the user stories at the time of story creations are now acceptance tested to make sure the feature is working. Anything which can be automated within the sprint will be automated by the testing and the assurance resource. And usually if there are multiple sprints running in parallel developing separate features, the integration testing across modules may be performed in subsequent sprints, but there is some bit of system integration testing also which will be as part of the user stories conducted within the sprints. Then comes, once the sprint is over and a product is sent out after build of a sprint, that's when as I said, if there are multiple sprints running, you need an integration testing phase just outside the sprint, which will test the modules being developed separately. So we suggest an integration testing sprint which runs kind of in parallel with the usual digital build and test sprint, but it could be a delayed sprint based on what the sprint cycle for the development sprints are. And this integration sprint will make sure that the modules integrate well. All the non-functional, most of the non-functional testing will be performed in the integration testing sprint, which is about load, stress, and security. So one of the advantage of doing the non-functional testing, integration testing phase rather than the usual sprint is because if there are multiple sprints running, there are multiple sprint teams, it would be sometimes not viable to provide the performance tools and the security testing tools for each of the sprint members. So it is always better to perform the non-functional testing as a common team as part of the integration testing. And then finally comes the pre-production testing, which is the user acceptance test. The regression pack is obviously built as part of the sprints. So whatever the scenarios, end-to-end scenarios which are part of the sprint are obviously converted into regression. So the regression pack builds on as the sprints move. A lot of functionality is already been tested because of the acceptance criteria and within the integration testing. So the user acceptance testing, minimal user acceptance testing needs to be performed at the end. So these are the 4 levels which Maverick provides in terms of assurance testing, and these are the recommendations we make to any digital organization or agile project that we work with. That was a quick summary from our end.